When love touches the heart, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't pause to measure years, and it doesn't stop to check a birth certificate. Love is not bound by time, not confined by age, and never limited by the illusions the world tries to impose. When an immortal being, one who has lived through centuries, finds himself drawn to a woman older in the eyes of the world, there is a truth being revealed, a truth far deeper than anything society can comprehend. What this reveals is that real love exists in a dimension where age is not even a variable, where numbers have no meaning, and where connection flows like energy between two souls. Think about this carefully. When someone truly sees another person, they do not see wrinkles, or lines, or the number of years lived. They see spirit, they see life, they see light. That recognition goes beyond what most people call attraction, because attraction is often built on surface. What happens here is resonance, and resonance is eternal. It does not fade as skin changes. It does not weaken as bodies shift, because resonance is rooted in spirit. The immortal does not look at her and say, "You are older than me in years." He looks at her and says, "You are the echo of something I have been waiting to find through lifetimes." If you reflect deeply, age is a construct that we have allowed to govern how we view love. We have been conditioned to believe that two people must fit into a certain frame of years, that they must align with social standards, otherwise it is unusual or unacceptable. But ask yourself, who designed those standards? Was it love, or was it fear? Every great love story that has ever existed broke a rule, challenged a belief, or defied the world's expectations. Age is just another illusion, another artificial wall that keeps people from experiencing something extraordinary. To the immortal, time has already proven its irrelevance. He has walked through centuries, seen empires rise and fall, witnessed countless generations fade away. Time is not his master. And so, when he sees her, this woman, who is considered older, what he sees is not the number the calendar gave her, but the wisdom her soul carries, the depth her heart reflects, and the beauty her energy radiates. He understands what many fail to see, that youth is temporary, but spirit is eternal. That the sparkle in someone's eyes, the passion in their voice, the courage in their heart, these things cannot be measured by years. When love exists on that level, every negative thought about age begins to dissolve. Insecurity fades, judgment loses power, and comparison becomes meaningless. The immortal is not searching for a younger face to validate his existence. He is seeking connection, truth, and the vibration of someone who matches the depth he carries inside. That vibration is ageless. It is the reason some people meet and within seconds feel as if they have known each other for lifetimes. It is the reason conversations with one person can feel endless, effortless, and overflowing with energy, while with another person silence feels heavy. This is what love beyond time and age means. It is the meeting of energies that have been circling each other, waiting for alignment, waiting for the moment when both are ready to recognize each other. Now consider this: when a soul has lived, when it has endured, when it has carried lessons through experiences, it develops a richness that cannot be found in the untouched and untested. The older woman carries this richness. She has lived through storms, seen the shifting of seasons, and still stands with grace. That kind of presence is magnetic, because it radiates wisdom and resilience. For the immortal, who has seen so much, this richness is not a weakness. It is the very thing that draws him closer. It is the treasure he has searched for, disguised in what the world calls age. Her age is not a number, it is the poetry of her survival. It is the evidence of her strength, the living record of her endurance, and the fragrance of her maturity. To the immortal, this is not a barrier. This is the key. This is what makes her extraordinary. The world often glorifies youth, but what it forgets is that youth without wisdom is shallow, fleeting, and fragile. The immortal has no need for the illusion of permanence in temporary beauty. He has already seen beauty fade across centuries. What holds him is depth. What anchors him is the presence of someone who has not only lived, But who has lived with meaning? He feels in her something that does not expire. The laugh lines on her face are not flaws, they are the evidence of joy lived fully. The scars she carries are not imperfections, they are proof of battles fought and survived. Each year etched upon her is not decay, it is another brushstroke on the canvas of her becoming. And when he sees her, truly sees her, he sees a masterpiece that time has only made more profound. The lesson within this love is powerful to overcome negative feelings about age, about worth, about the illusion of time. One must step into the dimension where love truly lives. Love does not count years, it counts moments of resonance. Love does not measure wrinkles, it measures the depth of presence. Love does not ask, "How old are you?" It asks, "Who are you?" The immortal does not fall for the number, he falls for the essence. And essence never ages. Negative feelings do not arise because of what happens to us, they arise because of the meaning we attach to what happens. Two people can walk through the same event, face the same storm, or hear the same words, yet one feels broken while the other feels empowered. What creates that difference? It is not the event itself, but the perspective through which it is filtered. When the immortal finds himself drawn to an older woman, the world might whisper, criticize, or question. Some might say it is unusual, others might frown upon it, and some may even plant seeds of doubt. These voices could easily create negative feelings, if he allows them to. Yet the immortal knows a secret. No voice has power unless you grant it power. Negative emotions are not handed to you fully formed. They are born the moment you decide to interpret a situation in a limiting way. Think about this deeply. A number on paper is just a number until the mind interprets it as too much or not enough. A comment from another person is just sound until the mind attaches the meaning. They are judging me. A wrinkle on the skin is just a line until the mind decides it means I am less beautiful. It is not the wrinkle, not the number, not the comment that hurts. It is the perspective. This is why shifting perspective is so powerful. It is like changing the lens on a camera. If the lens is cracked, every image appears distorted. But if the lens is clear, the same scene shines with clarity. Life works in the same way. You cannot always change the scene, but you can always change the lens through which you view it. The immortal has lived countless lifetimes, and he understands that perspective shapes reality more than any external fact. When he looks at her, he does not see the world's labels, he sees what others overlook. He shifts his focus from the surface to the essence. While others may say, "She is older," his perspective tells him, "She carries wisdom, depth, and grace." Where someone else might see limitation, he sees a gift. That perspective protects him from the trap of negative feelings. Because when you look for flaws, flaws will multiply. When you look for beauty, beauty expands. The direction of your focus determines the direction of your emotions. Perspective is not about denying reality, but about choosing which part of reality you give power to. A storm can be a reason to fear or a reason to grow stronger. A challenge can be a wall or it can be a door. An age difference can be viewed as a barrier or as a bridge. Which perspective you choose determines the feeling you create within. If you choose the perspective of love, then negative feelings lose their ground, because love has no interest in feeding fear. Imagine this woman, older in years but alive in spirit. If she were to focus on what the world tells her, she might feel insecurity. I am not enough, I am too old, he deserves someone younger. Those thoughts are not facts, they are interpretations. And interpretations can be changed. If she shifts her perspective, if she chooses to see herself through the eyes of the immortal, she will no longer see limitation but value. She will see that every year lived added depth. Every experience shaped her into someone worthy of profound love. That shift changes everything. Because when you see yourself differently, you feel differently. And when you feel differently, you radiate differently. Negative feelings cannot survive long in the presence of an empowered perspective. They wither away because they feed on fear, comparison, and doubt, all of which are products of the wrong lens. If the immortal had chosen the perspective of the world, he too might have felt doubt. He might have wondered, what will people say? Will they accept this? Is this right? That perspective would have chained him to insecurity. But because he chose a higher perspective, because he chose to see her essence instead of her age, he is free. And freedom is the opposite of negativity. The truth is, every human being has the power to control their perspective, yet most surrender it unconsciously. They let circumstances dictate how they feel. They let society tell them what is right. They let fear whisper its narrative until it becomes their belief. But perspective is always a choice. It is the one thing no one can take away from you. Viktor Frankl once wrote that even in the darkest of prisons, man retains the freedom to choose his attitude. The immortal embodies that truth. His perspective makes him unshakable, and it makes his love indestructible. When you shift perspective, what once seemed like a curse can become a blessing, what once felt like pain can become fuel, what once looked like loss can reveal hidden gain. Negative feelings dissolve not because the world changes, but because the meaning you give the world changes. And meaning is everything. A wrinkle can mean decay, or it can mean wisdom. A scar can mean brokenness, or it can mean survival. Age can mean limitation, or it can mean richness. The perspective you choose writes the story you live. Every negative feeling that rises within us is not meant to crush us, it is meant to guide us. Pain, doubt, insecurity, fear. These are not punishments, they are signals. They are energy vibrating at a certain frequency, asking to be transformed. Most people, however, make the mistake of letting that energy dominate them. They believe the doubt, they live inside the fear, they surrender to insecurity, and they allow judgment to become their truth. But the immortal knows something different. He understands that every ounce of pain is also an ounce of potential. Every shadow has within it the seed of light. When he feels the sting of judgment, or when the woman he loves feels the weight of insecurity about her age, he does not allow those feelings to define the story. Instead, he harnesses that energy, turns it inward, and uses it as fuel to rise higher. Pain transformed is power created. Think of fire for a moment. Left unchecked, fire burns, destroys, and leaves only ashes behind. But when directed, when harnessed with intention, that same fire cooks food, warms homes, and forges steel. Negative emotions work in the same way. Uncontrolled, they consume you. They eat away at confidence, at love, at self-worth. But when you take hold of them, when you refuse to let them run wild, you discover that they can fuel you to become stronger, clearer, and more determined. The immortal, having lived through centuries, knows that love is never without resistance. The world will always have something to say. The mind will always have doubts to whisper. But instead of drowning in them, he channels them. When people question why he would love an older woman, instead of shrinking, he grows bolder. Every word of judgment becomes a test, every seed of doubt becomes an opportunity to anchor himself deeper into truth. The older woman, too, faces her own storms. Society has told her stories for years, that beauty fades, that youth is everything, that value is measured in how young you look. These stories could easily become chains, weighing her down with shame or fear. But she holds a choice. She can let those negative feelings keep her small, or she can take that very energy and turn it into her power. When she feels insecurity rising, she can pause and remind herself, this is not weakness. This is fuel. I will take this feeling and let it push me to stand taller, to love deeper, to live freer. That shift transforms insecurity into confidence, doubt into clarity, fear into courage. Every negative emotion contains energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be directed. When you feel jealousy, it means you are longing for something. That longing is energy, and when redirected, it becomes motivation to grow. When you feel fear, it means you care about something deeply. That care is energy, and when redirected, it becomes the courage to protect what matters. When you feel judgment, it means you are measuring yourself by someone else's standards. That measurement is energy, and when redirected, it becomes freedom to define your own path. In the same way, when this woman feels the sting of being called too old, she can allow it to crush her, or she can decide, this feeling proves that I value myself, and I will not let society dictate what love means to me. That decision alone takes the weight of negativity and converts it into strength. The immortal knows that power is not found in avoiding pain, but in transmuting it. He sees the doubt in her eyes, and instead of dismissing it, he holds it and helps her see the truth that the very thing she calls her weakness is what makes her extraordinary. The world calls her age a flaw, but he calls it her crown. Every time she doubts, he reminds her that doubt is not evidence of failure. It is simply energy waiting to be redirected. He teaches her by example that no judgment has meaning unless they both agree to give it meaning. And in that awareness, both of them grow stronger, more united, and more unshakable. This process of turning pain into power is not a single moment. It is a practice, a habit, a way of living. Every negative thought that arises is another chance to choose transformation. Every whisper of insecurity is another invitation to stand taller. Every drop of fear is another spark waiting to ignite courage. And once you train yourself to see negative feelings as raw energy, instead of final truth, you stop running from them and start mastering them. You learn to stand in the fire without being burned, because you know how to direct the flame. The immortal understands this mastery well. He has walked through centuries of human struggles, seen people enslaved by their own minds, and witnessed countless lives wasted in fear. That is why he loves her strength, even in her insecurity. He sees in her the potential to turn every negative thought into her own awakening. And as she learns to do so, she no longer views pain as her enemy. She sees it as her teacher. Every negative feeling becomes a signal, every signal becomes a lesson, and every lesson becomes another step toward power. In this way, the very emotions that once threatened to tear her down now become the bricks with which she builds her freedom. The soul is timeless, ageless, and free from every limitation the body tries to impose. Deep within every human being is a part that never weakens, never decays, never grows old, and never dies. This is the immortal self, the essence that has existed long before the first heartbeat, and will continue long after the last breath. Most people forget this truth because they become identified with the temporary: skin, bones, age, appearances, circumstances. They measure their worth by how they look, by how many years they have lived, or by what society says is acceptable. Yet beneath all of that is the immortal presence, untouched by time, unshaken by fear, and undefeated by judgment. When one learns to live from this place, negative feelings lose their grip, because they cannot attach themselves to something eternal. They can only cling to what is temporary. The immortal within you is not concerned with numbers, not concerned with wrinkles, not concerned with whether the world approves or disapproves. It lives in truth, and truth is free. Imagine for a moment an ocean. The surface of the ocean is always changing. Waves rise, crash, and disappear. Storms pass, winds shift, and the water moves in constant motion. This surface is like the human experience, filled with changes, emotions, challenges, and the illusion of age. But beneath the surface, deep in the heart of the ocean, there is stillness, calmness, a place untouched by the turbulence above. That depth is the soul. That is the immortal part of you. When you identify only with the surface, you live in reaction, fear of aging, fear of loss, fear of judgment. But when you live from the depth, you live in power, because nothing external can touch what is infinite within you. The immortal who falls in love with the older woman does not see her through the eyes of the surface. He does not measure her by the shifting waves of appearance or the passing storms of years. He sees her from the depth, and in that depth, she is radiant, powerful, and alive. Her essence shines brighter than any physical change. He recognizes in her not just a woman of years but a soul of eternity, and that recognition awakens her own immortal self. For perhaps she, too, has been living on the surface, worrying about how she looks, what others might think, or how much time she has left. But in his presence, she remembers. She is not just a body moving through time, she is a soul moving beyond it. When a person remembers their immortal self, fear begins to dissolve. Fear of growing old disappears because the soul does not age. Fear of rejection disappears because the soul knows its own worth. Fear of loss fades because the soul understands that nothing real can ever be lost. This shift is not about ignoring reality, but about anchoring yourself in a higher reality. The body may change, but the essence remains untouched. When you live from that place, you stop clinging to youth as if it were the source of value. You stop worrying about years as if they were proof of decline. Instead, you begin to live with freedom, knowing that the timeless part of you is your true identity. This way of living changes how you love, how you see yourself, and how you relate to the world. If you love only from the surface, your love is fragile. It depends on appearance, on conditions, on temporary circumstances. But if you love from the immortal self, your love is eternal, unshaken, and unconditional. This is why the immortal man is able to love her so deeply. His love is not directed at her body, but at her being. And when she receives that love, she begins to see herself through his eyes, not through the eyes of a society that worships youth. She learns to stand tall in her essence, to walk in her truth, and to embrace the eternal beauty that was always within her. Living as the immortal within you is not something reserved for mythical beings or ancient legends. It is available to every human who chooses to rise above appearances and remember their true nature. It is a matter of awareness, of shifting focus from the temporary to the eternal. Every time you feel the weight of insecurity, you can remind yourself, this feeling belongs to the surface, not to my essence. Every time fear whispers that you are too old, too late, or not enough, you can answer with the truth. The immortal in me is timeless, and that is who I am. Every time judgment tries to steal your confidence, you can anchor yourself in the knowledge that the soul does not bend to judgment, because the soul is infinite. The immortal within you has no limits. It does not think in terms of what is possible or impossible, it simply exists in pure potential. When you align with that self, you step into a higher state of being. You stop wasting energy on fear and instead channel it into creation, love, and expansion. You begin to live as though you cannot be broken, because the part of you that is real cannot be touched by time or circumstance. And as you live this way, you inspire others to do the same. You become a mirror that reflects their own immortality back to them, reminding them of what they have forgotten. This is the greatest gift the immortal gave the older woman, the reminder of her timelessness. And in that reminder, her negative feelings about age, about worth, about being loved despite society's rules, begin to dissolve. She steps into her true self, the self that was never measured by numbers, but always defined by spirit.